Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. I haven't posted in 2 weeks. I have some big video I'm working on that I'm just probably not going to get out until next week. But I really did want to do something, because I haven't done anything in a while, and so today's video topic is something I've had in the back of my mind ever since I started this channel over a year ago. I'm just now finally getting to it. I know the algorithm is probably not going to like this, and this will probably be one of my worst performing videos, but I don't care, I'm going to make it anyway. So for those of you who are actually caring to watch it, welcome. So, I watch a lot of old TV shows. A lot of them. This video will not cover nearly all of them, but I just thought it'd be fun to just make a video recommending a couple of these shows, talking about what they're like, just the kind of feeling you get watching them, what they are, what made them so funny, and maybe one of you guys will want to check out at least one of these. If you want, I'm not really gonna. I might tell you where to watch some of these. I might not. It's just this is gonna be more of a even more free-form video than my videos usually are. So before I continue, I'd like to remind you all to check out my Letterboxd, serialized as well, linked in the description. Thank you all for watching. If you are watching this, without further ado, let's do it to it and dive on in. Okay, really the reason I wanted to make this video now is because of the TV show Car 54, Where Are You? This show is just hysterical. This is probably my favorite show in this video. It's pretty easy to find. The whole thing streams on Prime Video. And yeah, Prime Video, not like buy it digitally on Amazon or whatever, so it's pretty easy to find. The show did about 60 episodes, so it's got a decent run. It is about the lives of these two policemen who work in New York City, 53rd Precinct. Officer Gunther Tootie, the short, weird-looking one. Be fair, they both look weird. And Francis Muldoon, who is the tall one. So their personalities are pretty simple, but the actors are just such geniuses. So Tootie is he's kind of dumb. He's always just saying weird things whatever comes to his head, and he always just gives these really strange expressions, and just kind of hard to see if you don't watch the show. But he just does all these weird things. He also all these sort of strange gestures and mannerisms are just really funny. And then Muldoon is he's the smarter of the two. He understands more police code by the book, but what I like is that the episodes aren't about, it's the by-the-book guy versus the annoying sidekick or whatever. No. These two are actually friends. It's stated multiple times in the show that they have been partners for 9 years, which is a huge record for policemen. So the show is basically just about their lives, both on the force, off the force. It's mostly about on the force. And just all this weirdo characters they meet. There's a lot of recurring characters in the police station with their captain, some of the other officers, some of the people who live in their precinct. They're all just all sorts of random stories. Probably one of my favorite episodes is about how Tootie is really mad that he and Muldoon didn't get any citations from the captain, which is when police captains give special recognition to each officer for having done something. So the two of them are given task to watch for pickpocketers in the World Series. And Tootie is so obsessed with catching a pickpocketers that he can get a citation. And through a series of circumstances I won't spoil, he ends up getting mistaken for a pickpocketer and is arrested. Another episode is about the funniest side character, which is Officer Leo Schnauzer. So the episode is just about how every Thursday night at 11 o'clock for the past 9 years, he and his wife always get into super loud arguments that go on forever, that wake up their entire apartment building, forcing Tootie and Muldoon to have to show up and try to calm things down. They've been doing this for 9 years. They decide it's finally time for them to try and stop these arguments once and for all. That's probably my favorite episode, honestly. Other episodes, Muldoon is trying to prove to the other cops that he has a life and that he's not just some mama's boy, as he says. So he just goes to some fancy club where he sees the other policemen are watching him. So he just goes up to some random girl with her family and says, "So just act like I'm with you, okay?" But when these people see a strange-looking man being watched by the police. They assume, oh, is this guy a criminal? So they are terrified as they think some armed gunman is trying to use them as human shields or something, as he tries because he doesn't really have time to explain anything to them as what's actually going on. This is just a really funny show. It's probably the shortest out of all the shows I'm going to talk about in this video. And yeah, it's still got 60 episodes. Because back then, TV show seasons were usually at least 30 episodes. So this show got 2 seasons, but each of them were 30 episodes long, so it had a pretty good run. It's just really funny. They apparently made a movie out of it in the 90s that was a huge flop, but this is just a really great show. It's probably the least known of the shows I'm going to talk about, but it's probably my favorite. You should just watch Car 54. It's hysterical. Even the first episode is pretty good. Get Smart. This is a show that you've probably heard referenced to before. So this came out in the 60s. Most of these came out in the 60s. Because of James Bond, spy movies, spy TV shows were everywhere. The people at I guess the TV network said, instead of making a serious spy show like Mission Impossible or something, let's make a spy comedy. So we have Get Smart, about Maxwell Smart and his partner Agent 99. We never actually find out what her name is, even though they eventually get married in the last season, but we just never find out what her name is, which is pretty funny. But so the show is just these two every episode. They get some mission from their chief, usually, who is just called Chief. Never find out his real name. It's classified. And they go on just some kind of wacky adventure or mission where they have to stop the agents of the evil organization Chaos, spelled with a K. And they work for the Agency of Control, the good guys. Control and Chaos are acronyms. This is a show, much like all these really, but this is something you really just have to see to really just understand the humor. Because the main character of Maxwell Smart is just hilarious. He has all these different sayings that you've probably heard before. He'll say stuff like, and loving it. Missed it by that much. And you know the character Inspector Gadget? Inspector Gadget was voiced by the guy who played Maxwell Smart, Don Adams. That's why they cast him. He was so well known for playing a idiot spy, they cast him to voice an idiot spy. Oh, he has this whole routine where he'll say to someone, would you believe this and this? And they'll say, I find that hard to believe. And then he'll say, well, how about this? And the guy will say, I don't think so. And then he'll say something really stupid, and and that's how pretty much every episode goes. Bunch of just funny lines, weirdo one-off characters, spy jokes. Like, he has a phone in his shoe. That's one of the main gadgets. There's only, I think, one multi-part episode. It's very episodic. There isn't really any continuity or subplots. To be fair, none of these shows... okay, most of these shows don't really have subplots, but this is probably the one that you would enjoy the most. I would think my audience would probably like... You guys would probably like this one the most. I don't know, maybe. I don't know what kind of TV shows you guys watch, but this one is probably just the most universal in terms of its humor and appeal. It lasted 5 seasons, so it got a really good run. Next up is Leave It to Beaver. Now you might look at this show, like this picture, okay, so is this just one of those boring family sitcoms from the old days where all TV shows were boring? No. Yes, this show is your standard family sitcom, but what makes this one work as well as it does, I mean, it lasted over 200 episodes, is that the characters are just hilarious. Because this show is about a Kid Beaver, his brother Wally, and their parents. What makes the show so funny is that so much of the dialogue just feels so natural. It never feels like the characters are just trying to make jokes. It's just that almost everything they say is funny, and for some reason. Because the show is about kids. And kids say the darndest things. And, they say just whatever comes to their mind. So that's what a lot of the dialogue is. Just characters saying whatever comes to their mind. It just tends to be really funny. Every episode usually has Beaver learn some moral at the end. Sometimes it's the parents who have to learn something. Sometimes it's Wally who has to learn something. But what I appreciate is that the show never feels preachy or anything like that. The morals feel very natural, And again, the dialogue is also very natural, so the show is just funny. Well, it's not just these four. There are a lot of like Beaver and Molly's friends appear a lot. Beaver's friend Larry, who unfortunately stops appearing after a while, but he appeared so off frequently when he did. He ends up being in something like half the episodes. Or Wally's friend Eddie, who at first barely appears but eventually appears a lot toward the end of the show. I'm sure we have all met an Eddie in our lives. If you've seen any episodes with him, you would really understand that. Just some jerk kid who you're still friends with anyway. You don't know why. This show ran for over 200 episodes, like I said earlier, so you might think, oh, did it eventually jump the shark? Which, might I add, a TV show I almost covered in this video is where the phrase jump the shark originates from, but somehow this show never got bad. I'd say season 1 is very good, but definitely not as good as the show gets. Season 6 is also the same. Not the best of the show or anything, but still very funny. But seasons 2 to 5, great. Just love it. And even season 6, when they were already past 200 episodes, is still quite good. And I appreciate that the show, the actors grew up, the characters grew up slightly. Like, when the show begins, Beaver's in, I don't know, second grade or something, but at the end of the show, he's in 8th grade. And at the end of the show, Wally graduates high school. And the last episode of the show, which you don't really need to watch them in order, but the last episode of the show is basically just a clip show where the family all looks through their photo albums of pictures and clips to see how the boy, Beaver and Molly have grown up. And it's just, even though I wouldn't like clip shows, I think that was a pretty nice ending for the show. So this is really funny. I totally recommend you watch it if you can. Next up is Green Acres. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys love The Simpsons, and the creator of The Simpsons, Matt Groening, said this was one of his favorite shows as a kid. He said that he paid so much attention to it has really influenced him in his work. He actually wrote the foreword to some book about Green Acres, and I'll just tell you this one quote from it. I love to watch Green Acres because it is as weird as I thought it was. It is a very peculiar show. Those were his exact words, I'm pretty sure. Because that's the thing. He described it as a show that, when he was a kid, he thought, man, this is so weird and bizarre. But I'm sure when I'm an adult, I'll understand it more. But then when he became an adult, he still didn't understand it. But once you come to that conclusion, you realize that is the point. I said before with Car 54 and Get Smart, these are shows you have to watch to really understand what makes them so funny. But this is a show where no amount of description could ever get you to understand what it is like. This show is completely bonkers, but in the best way possible. So, the intro tells you absolutely everything you need to know. If this video didn't convince you to watch this show, I would say watch the intro and it tells you exactly what the show is about. So, this rich couple, Mr. and Mrs. Douglas, Oliver and Lisa. So they're a rich couple, live in a big penthouse in New York City. But the thing is, Oliver always wanted to leave the big city and go out to some nice farm town. So in the first episode, he tells his wife, hey, I bought a farm. We're going to live in this weirdo hick town called Hooterville. And at first, his wife hates it when she hears about this. She doesn't want to leave the big city. And then when the two get there, they find that this town is completely bonkers. Except the joke is, Oliver hates this town. He finds everyone in it to be really annoying and bizarre, yet his wife, Lisa, completely blends in with it, and she didn't even want to move here. They're just all, much like The Simpsons, which I said was really inspired from this show. You have all these sorts of background characters that populate this town that even if they don't actually do that much, they're just so memorable through their different personalities and looks. Like, there's this kooky old salesman guy named Mr. Haney who's always just trying to con people into buying his useless junk. There's this old couple, Mr. and Mrs. Ziffel, that lives across from the Douglases. They're pretty nice people, except they're really weird as their pet pig. They act like he is their son. They literally say he is their son, Arnold the pig. And there are multiple scenes of Arnold watching TV and turning it off. I don't know how that works, but it's really something you gotta see. There's the character of Mr. Kimball. He's the county agent, or maybe he was something else. Maybe he was the county agent. If you'd seen the show, you'd get that. His character is just that he'll say one thing and he'll say, maybe it was something else, or no, maybe it was that thing. There's Ebb, this guy who works for the Douglases, who just eventually starts calling Mr. Douglas dad, and then he'll say, I am not your father, Ebb. I could go on and on, but this is just a really wacky show. I mean, you have an episode where they go to Washington, D.C., and Mr. Douglas opens his hotel window, and he sees the Eiffel Tower. I am not kidding. And he is the only character in the show to think this is weird. It's like if Homer's enemy from The Simpsons, again with The Simpsons references, were an entire show where you have one normal guy in an entire society of weirdos, where everything around him is just insane. Go watch this show. It's really great. The Phil Silvers Show. This was actually had the same creator as Car 54, Where Are You? Nat Hiken, except this aired a few years before. This show is it's probably it's not the least well known out of these shows. I'd say it's probably the least well preserved. Like if you watch it on DVD or if you have cable TV like I do and you watch it on TV, the picture quality is good, but it's not as good as some of the other shows. This was apparently like the #1 show in America for a long time. It was hugely popular. So it stars this great comedian named Phil Silvers playing the character of Sergeant Bilko, the head of a motor pool platoon in the United States Army. If you don't know what a motor pool is, it's basically the guys who fix the vehicles, the Jeeps, stuff like that for the Army. And every episode is about Bilko and his men trying to come up with some kind of scheme to get rich. When the show first aired, it was called You'll Never Get Rich. Because that's pretty accurate. What I love about this show is that Phil Silvers, the guy who plays Bilko, is just brilliant. Every scene he's in, he just has this sort of presence to him. It's not because he's imposing or whatever, it's just the way he speaks. Like his whole character is that he's a con man. And a con man has to be able to command presence in a room. He has to be able to get people to do things. Even if people don't like him, they always end up falling for something he's saying to some extent because he's just such a good speaker and can just convince people of anything. So many episodes are about him conning people, saying, "Oh, but he'll flatter people, which will make them like him, and they'll just do whatever he says." There's this running gag whenever he sees the wife of the colonel that runs their army base, he'll say, "Oh, hello, young lady, is your mother home?" And she'll say, "Where's Mrs. Hall?" And she'll say, "No, I'm Mrs. Hall." "Oh, you look so young." And then the colonel of the base, Colonel Hall, is terrified of Bilko. He's so used to him never doing any work and gambling and coming up with schemes, and yet he always ends up falling for them anyway. There are over 100 episodes of this show, so it has there are a lot of them. Maybe like the first 2-3 episodes aren't the best, but it really gets the ball rolling pretty quickly. This is just a really funny show. Like they have guest stars occasionally. Like there's an episode where they have this guy who's supposed to be Elvis, except he's not Elvis, who he's been drafted or enlisted in the army for a bit, and Bilko and his platoon are trying to get him to sing so they can make a record out of him and sell it for a lot of money. Or how about the episode where a monkey wanders into the army physical, and then the monkey gets court-martialed or something. I don't really remember that one that well, honestly. Or there's the episode where Bilko and his men try to audition for this thing in the army where they think that they're sending you off to some big, great vacation for your platoon. Turns out they're actually sending you to be experimented on in the name of science for this to solve this really important disease. But when they get there, but the way it works is that they make it kind of like a vacation spot where they get there. Like they give you all this great food and all this excitement, so they can make sure that your last days are spent, you're happy, before they put you in with the experiment and you probably die. Except the thing is, Bilko and his men don't know this, so they think they're just getting sent off to the greatest vacation of all time, when in reality, that is not what's going on. That is the funniest episode of the entire show, by the way. Bilko Goes South. I think it's from season 3. You have not lived until you have watched that episode. Few things are funnier than that, trust me. Last but not least, Taxi. This is probably the most well-known of these shows because it's the most recent as it ended in 1982, but like, it has the most recognizable actors. As you can see, hey, isn't that Christopher Lloyd? Isn't that Danny DeVito? Yeah, this show kind of launched their careers. So this show is pretty simple. It's about the lives of New York City cab drivers and everything they have to go through. And the main joke of the show is that the main character, I mean, there isn't really a main character, but the guy with the most screen time, Alex Rieger, he's the guy up top on the left. He is the one normal person in this entire show, except here's the thing, it's not like Green Acres where he's thinking, how did I ever get to be surrounded by these people? He's used to them. Yet, but another big part of the joke is that everyone else on this show, they all have big dreams. The girl, Elaine, she wants to work in art. The guy beneath her, Tony, he wants to be a boxer. Or there's another guy, he's just not on this image for some reason, Bobby. His whole thing is he wants to be an actor. Except the thing is, it's really hard to get into these kinds of professions. So all these people have to become cab drivers to make ends meet while they try to get their dream jobs on the sides. Except the thing is, Alex, the one normal guy, the smartest, most just well-kept guy out of them all, is the one guy who's happy with just being a cab driver. You have other characters like Louis, Danny DeVito. Basically, every character Danny DeVito has played, at least a lot of them, are all kind of, I feel like, influenced by Louis' character, except Louis is kind of irredeemable. He's the dispatcher, meaning he's basically the boss of all these cabbies, and he is just such a jerk to them. You would think that a character who is so mean would be really annoying, but instead he's probably the funniest character in the entire show. Probably because he's played by Danny DeVito. You've got Christopher Lloyd, the guy in the blue jacket. The joke is that he's just really weird. They call him a relic of the 60s, meaning that he was probably doing drugs and was probably an alcoholic too. So he's just so messed up, but his dialogue is just, everything he says is funny. I don't even think that's really much of an exaggeration. And he actually appears on The Simpsons. I'm not even just saying, oh, Christopher Lloyd was on The Simpsons, who wasn't. I mean, like, he actually appeared in an episode playing Jim. And then there's Lotka, the guy in the white there. His joke is just that he's just from some unnamed foreign country. It's not even it's not based on any kind of real country. It's just whatever. He speaks broken English. He does all these weird things. But he speaks in the third person sometimes, but he's really funny. Pretty simple stuff, but really funny show. So, that's all I gotta say. I know this video is probably not maybe the most interesting and probably something you'd put on in the background. Maybe not something super well done, but you know what? I like doing this, and I hope maybe you guys took something away from this. So, that's all for now. And remember to stay way past cool.